lot of great features. I think your technical skills are very good for this site. The only issue is with things like your Photoshop. If you look at this thing, it has a lot of sort of pixelated edges, and so that piece, I'm not quite sure how you made it in Photoshop, but it needs a little bit of work. Also, some of the shoes are stretched, so you want to make sure that you're cropping them so that they're the right size, so that they aren't stretched at all, because I think this one is not stretched. These other ones are stretched. So Photoshop skills and your hover, but those it worked with, the other ones didn't. So the hover had a little bit of issues as well. But other than that, the skills were fantastic. And your file structure, there was one issue with dashes in one of your images, in some of your images. But other than that, your file structure was great. So the question then sort of becomes sort of the design. And I think the design is sort of in the middle. And I think you guys... your guys' messages were relaxed and modern, and I think the blue really does go to the relaxed, but I'm not sure about the modern. The modern is usually sort of more bold, usually has bolder typefaces. It has a lot to do with kind of simplicity and the grid, and this one instead feels a lot more classic because of the lines. The other issue I have a little bit is with consistency. So this one doesn't have an outline. These boxes all have outlines. This box has drop shadows, which I really like the drop shadows. Then this one has rounded corners with drop shadows. And so one of the things that I always look for in design is a certain level of consistency. Are the pages the same from page to page? And does the different styles make sense from piece to piece? And I think this one has a couple different styles, and I think figuring out which one you want to have sort of throughout the website is important, and so I think that that piece is sort of missing in this. But I do think the blue is very well chosen. I think this typeface is well chosen for something more classic. This typeface is much more modern, but it needs a little bit more push towards the modern. Also, in terms of layout, you have some really interesting pieces. Like this is actually a very interesting piece. This is a very interesting piece. This is an interesting piece. I like that you put in these extra pieces, but they haven't quite figured out where they're supposed to go, right? All these pieces up here are kind of floating, and I think you really want to anchor them to make them feel as sort of unified as possible. So I think there's a couple little like sort of design details that you could kind of finesse, and it would take the site to another sort of place. The other thing I think you want to think about is this is the kind of most unique element on the page. And how do you get more unique elements on the page? How does your layout become more unique? How does everything sort of become unique? And I think that's a really good question to sort of pose to yourself. How do I make this site look, sort of like other shoe sites, but at the same time have its own personality? I think that's really a good question.